I think the 49ers are going down a slippery slope here, and here's what I mean by this. Both receivers that they have, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk, were quote-unquote on the trade block. There were reports around that. So, Lewis, you've been in these locker rooms like I've been. At some point, if you're Brandon Aiyuk and the 49ers won't commit to you, why am I going to commit everything to them? I mean, you're Deebo Samuel, and you're like, okay, you don't want to pay me my $20 million, and what am I going to go out there? And so I think the 49ers, Adam and Lewis, are going down a slippery slope because they're going to try to have their cake for one more year and eat it too, and then have their replacement already ready. The NFL just never works like that, guys.
The 49ers are going down a slippery slope. Once again, the national media pundits are back at it, just stirring up the pot, saying there's going to be some tension within the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver room. Clips like that need to be addressed, which is why I'm on here. So with that being said, let's get into it, y'all. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Ryan Tigey, back in action in front of a camera and a microphone. The clip that you heard from the jump, coming from Booger, a national media pundit, a guy who played in the NFL, the stuff they say just drives me through the roof. I don't know how they come to these conclusions. I don't know if they believe what they're saying, but with his conviction talking about how there's going to be tension because the 49ers drafted Ricky Pearsall #1 with their first pick in this last draft. And not only that, he's also providing the assumption that the two wide receivers that are currently in the room, i.e. Deebo Samuel, i.e. Brandon Aiyuk, feel like they both, in their own minds, are under the impression that the San Francisco 49ers don't want to pay them their $20 million, as he so elegantly put it in that last segment. Well, frankly, it's just more bullshit. I understand the 49ers, goddamn, they have been dominant. They have been so good, especially these last 5-6 years. So it naturally warrants a lot of attention. But I think what this really stems from, all of these folks, all of these sources, all of these insiders reporting Brandon Aiyuk's going to get traded, and then that changed to, oh no, it's Deebo Samuel's going to get traded ahead of the draft. All that noise, which yet again didn't happen. Where are those people? Where are all those people? Why can't those people do a follow-up and discuss why were they wrong? Because neither one of them got traded. We still have all their dogs on the team. But as I've stated in previous videos, draft season drums up a lot of bullshit. And a lot of it gets skewed towards the 49ers because they have been so good. And naturally, that's just a part of the game that comes with it. So since they were all wrong about that, this is just essentially their new angle. Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, there's going to be tension in their wide receiver room because they drafted another wide receiver. What I don't understand is why he is essentially telling us, you know, we've been in locker rooms. These guys feel this way, that Deebo Samuel feels like the 49ers don't want to pay him the $20 million, that BA is going to feel like the 49ers don't want to pay $20 million. Newsflash, he's worth more than $20 million. But like, what the fuck? Where are you getting that notion from? I get it, you played in the league, but it's just wrong. And honestly, I think it's fucking dumb, and it stirs up even more shit that people love to just discuss and talk about, as I've seen that clip go throughout the internet, and it's just a joke. It's just a joke. The insiders that were claiming all these trades were going to happen, where are they at? People are still claiming there's a potential for Deebo to get traded. It's off season. Not a whole lot's going on now that the draft has passed. But my God, I just don't understand what's their rationale or reasoning to put out shit like that when you know it's just bullshit. Because if you're doing it for clickbait, I know for me, I'm not going to go back to that person and watch his shit when everything he says doesn't happen, or it's wrong, or it's a lie. So that is just something that's been latest on my mind as I look at kind of some of the other dynamics. Number one, the Ricky Pearsall pick, it was a good pick. I will play a clip towards the end about John Lynch, who went through it relatively quickly, but he talked about why they took Pearsall when we already have stud wide receiver room. And basically what he said, he was the best player on our board at that time. So if it was an offensive lineman, if it was a cornerback, literally any other position where they have a need, they would have drafted that player. But Ricky Pearsall, who is a stud, he was the one that was available and the best player on their board for them to pick. So they picked him. So it's already getting overblown with, oh, the 49ers just target another receiver. No, he was the best guy there at pick 31 in the NFL draft. And then as we talk about like Brandon Aiyuk, John Lynch has already came out and commented when he was getting berated with questions about this. Here's what John Lynch specifically said when getting asked a question about Brandon Aiyuk and where they're at in terms of getting a deal done. Take a listen.
You know, I know that we're continuing to have positive talks with BA, and you know, we are really efforting to get something done with him, and we're excited about continuing down that path, and Brandon being a part of this team.
Enough said on the Brandon Aiyuk front. Let's pivot to the Deebo Samuel front now, because if anything, Deebo Samuel noise has gotten even louder about the 49ers trading him. I saw Diana Rossini put out a tweet saying that she talked to Deebo about hearing all the noise about him being potentially traded. And then he commented with a laughing emoji, basically insinuating like, I didn't talk to you, lady, but she still reported that. So I'd be curious to really find out what happened there. But nonetheless, one thing that is true, we know Deebo's an absolute beast on the field. We also know, because of the way he plays, he's battled injuries throughout his career with the 49ers. And what also is true is this is his last year of his deal. He's under contract for 2 more years, but this is the last year of his deal where he gets guaranteed money. And from a selfish Niner fan perspective only, I think that's going to bring the best version of Deebo we've seen yet, or maybe since like 2019 when he just carried the team on his back. Because I think Deebo Samuel is looking at this year as essentially a contract year or a prove-it year. Last year, he's guaranteed any specific amount of money. He's aware with all the noise and chatter that the 49ers, it would be a lot easier for the Niners to move on from him next year than it would be to this year with the dead cap money and all that, in the way his contract is structured. So I think him hearing all this and all the speculation going around and how he didn't have his best season when he signed his contract, he's come out and said that worst film he's ever put on tape. Last season, he was injured, 200 plus less receiving yards. He just didn't have as productive of a year as we're used to with Deebo. And with it being the last year of guaranteed money on his contract and the fact he's still getting calls coming in from Kyle Shanahan, watch out. Mark my words, watch out for Deebo this season. I feel like that dude is going to ball. And another thing about Ricky Pearsall, that it was a good pick. And what forgets to be mentioned with all these national media pundits, Brandon Aiyuk is boys with them. They played at Arizona State together. They've stayed in contact over the years. And Brandon Aiyuk sent Kyle and John a text message saying, after picking Pearsall, that that was a fire pick. So number one, they're boys. But as it relates to Pearsall himself, the precision route runner, the football junkie that he is, staying after practice, the guy watches a ton of film. He's a guy who loves ball. And you know another thing that he does? He's phenomenal at yards after catch, yards after contact, which is what the 49ers love, which is what all our skilled position players are phenomenal at. Specifically, you know, Deebo is elite at that. And he's not a threat. He is not a threat to Deebo, to Aiyuk, to even Juwan Jennings. I am under the impression that he is going to be, one, a special teams guy. Number two, yeah, he's going to get the ball. Is it going to be a ton of targets? No. He is going to be a mix-in player. It just provides more depth. It's like the D-line. He's just going to be able to rotate in, let the other guys come out for a couple plays. It is going to be a good year for him to learn Shanahan's offense.
It's solo right coin, Fox, toss 18 triple, Canada Larry, we stay, why shallow?
And learn the way NFL players play. I think he's going to be a tremendous receiver in the NFL. This year, I think he'll be good, but it's not going to be anything nuts because we already have those guys. We have guys that are better than him right now that are already in the starting lineup, and we have a couple of them. So he's no threat. The real threat to all of this entire situation, is the salary cap. More specifically, Brock Purdy being up for a contract extension next year, because at the highest paid position, This year, he accounts for 0.3% of the total cap. He makes $1 million, where guys that he plays better than in the same position are literally making $50 million. So people that are thinking that Brock Purdy may not do an extension next year, there's literally no way. But that is a threat. It's the last year of his rookie deal, and then he's up for a contract extension following this year, and then that is going to require a domino effect. It's just part of the way the league is structured, but that is the real threat. But again, people like to isolate and try to say, oh no, because the Niners did this, it's going to cause tension over here. It's all a load of shit. And it's something that clearly doesn't sit well with me, because it's people talking about a team that are just fans of the game. They don't follow closely. They actually don't listen to a lot of the things that come out from the media, from the team interviews, anything like that. It's just, oh, because I played in the NFL, I know how it is, because that's how I was. So naturally it's going to be how these guys are. It's just not true. Even if Brandon Aiyuk, hypothetically, I don't believe this is going to happen, but hypothetically, if they just are not able to work out a deal, Brandon Aiyuk this year is scheduled to make $14 million fully guaranteed. $14 million. So it's not like he's some super underpaid all-pro receiver. No, that's not the case. He was a first-round pick, and he's on the last year of his contract, and he's going to be making $14 million. Is he worth more than that? Yes. No one's debating that. I'm just saying, hypothetically, if they didn't, it's not like Brandon Aiyuk is making next to nothing where all these other players are making 20x what he's making. It's just not the case. He is making good money this year. He's worth more, but I'm just saying, worst case scenario, they don't work anything out. The guy's still making 14 mil. So that's also something that isn't getting talked about much, if at all, especially in the media. And I'll make two last points here. I made a video prior to the 2023 season, and I had a theory that the better Deebo Samuel played this past season, the higher likelihood he would be traded. My rationale behind it was because of Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey and Deebo Samuel, they play very similar, and you can both, they're interchangeable. Both of them can play receiver. Both of them can play running back. And so because of that, I thought there may be a possibility that if Deebo's equity got up to a first-round pick in terms of a trade, that the 49ers would be potentially more tempted to make that happen because of the fact they have Christian McCaffrey. I mentioned how Brandon Aiyuk was going to be up for a deal. And so I just thought that was a possibility. Well, what I can say, thank God that didn't happen. As I've stated before, and I will state it again, enjoy watching this upcoming season. This team is so fucking loaded. As 49er fans, we are so lucky to see the studs that John and Kyle have brought in to this team and watch them play every Sunday. And not to beat a dead horse, but if you watch my last video, the last hoorah, this is their chance. They have to seize this moment and bring a ring back to the Bay, because this isn't going to go on forever, especially with the lingering QB1 contract that is set to take place next offseason. And then finally, John Lynch was on the Pat McAfee show. I highly recommend, if you haven't seen it, go watch that interview. I think he was on there for like 30 minutes. It was an unbelievable interview. He gave some great insight from things I didn't even know the full story about how he got hired as the GM for San Francisco. Like, he cold called Kyle Shanahan. I thought there was more of a relationship there. Apparently there wasn't, because he even said I cold called Kyle. Anyway, I highly recommend watching that interview. He was unbelievable in it. And John Lynch is a fucking stud. And you could see just in that interview, because we don't hear him talk that much, especially like with freedom that he did or just comfortability that he did with those guys, you could see why he was a commentator, because the guy's elite at almost everything he does throughout his entire life. It's pretty impressive. But he got asked the question about all the talk going on, all the rumors, all the speculation, all the bullshit, frankly, about the San Francisco 49ers in the wide receiver situation. And I thought there was some key pieces of information that would be worthwhile sharing. So let's take a listen to John Lynch answering a question about the wide receiver room for the San Francisco 49ers.
Now, you just sat up good. Smart play. Because this one's going to be talked about. Yeah, smart, John. You know, you obviously Stanford brain.
Gets it.
Wide receiver room. You got a lot of business you're going to have to do. And I think you've even mentioned before, like, we've had to do this before too, seemingly always us having to do this. And it's because of the eyeing of talent, the finding of talent, bringing in of talent, success, a lot of eyeballs, and everybody wanting, you know, everybody that you have seemingly on your team, especially when you have a plethora. That wide receiver room has a lot of business that has to be handled. Is that how you see it? And what are your thoughts on how you're going to, you know, kind of navigate it all, knowing that humans are involved, money's involved, and having a football team ready to go this fall that needs to win a Super Bowl so that we can add a 6th trophy to the wall there in San Francisco?
Yeah, well, here's my thoughts. You know, I love our roster. I love the way it's comprised. As I said, we were right there, and we got to find a way to get just a little bit better. And I'm doing everything in my power to keep our roster together, and that's my goal. And I don't question that. I've got so much belief. When you talk about guys like Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo, they're guys we drafted. They're guys we take a lot of pride in what they've become, who they've become, and we couldn't be more proud of those guys. And so, you know, during the course of drafts and off seasons, do conversations happen? Absolutely, they do. We're past that now, and you know, we're thrilled to add to that group Jawan Jennings, Brandon Aiyuk, Deebo Samuel, Chris Conley, Ronnie Bell, Danny Gray, and now you add Ricky Pearsall, Jake Cowing. I think we made an already strong group even stronger. And part of my job is to think about the now and then to think into the future as well. Think out, and so. But we don't do that without thinking, can these guys contribute right away? And we have a vision for both those guys, how they can contribute and be a part. And they represent a lot of the qualities that we like in our players. And they were the best players there for us at the time. And so we're thrilled to add those guys to an already strong room. And we're ready to roll forward. And we've got to find a way, like I said, just to get that much better. And we think we really helped our roster throughout this offseason, free agency, into the draft. And we're fired up about our team.
John, you're awesome, dude.
Hell yeah.
So 2 key things I took away from that. One, he said we added another weapon, referencing Slick Rick, Ricky Pearsall. Wasn't replace. He said we added, which is true. They added another weapon. Simple as that. And the best part I heard about that, when asked about, you know, potential trades, he said, from the general manager and president of operations for the 49ers, said, we're past that now. Which again brings me back to my point of why I did this show, because all of the pundits, including San Francisco 49er team beat writers, there was one in particular, you know who I'm talking about, they were all wrong. And so now they got to find new angles to just stir up the pot and mix shit up and try to make things a bigger deal when it's possibly not even a deal whatsoever. It's not even a thing. It's not even an issue. So just wanted to jump on here. It's hard for me to hold myself back when I just see clips going around of just pure and utter nonsense. So I'll be back as things continue to ramp up. OTAs, training camp approaching. Couldn't come any sooner because I am ready for it. I'm ready for the boys, the band, to get back together. So until then, I'll be back. Like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Hit me up. Peace.